which the emergent political parties, the Whigs and the Tories, were the first to emerge in the 18th century. And they would play this parliamentary game whilst they were ruling the country in the House of Commons or the House of Lords. But they would engage in comparable activities like horse racing, fox hunting, cricket, athletics, sailing, those sorts of activities. And they started to develop written rules for all of those sports.
Okay, that's good.
But the major sports emerge in the 19th century. It's there that you get the different forms of football, rugby football, association football or soccer, that's the worldwide game. These were legislated for by associations, the Football Association and the Rugby Football Union. From Britain in that context, because they wrote the rules down, they spread around the world very, very rapidly.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your explanations. And, well, I have some questions about mimesis. Mimesis is a term that has been used in the book Quest for Excitement, Sport and Leisure in the Civilizing Process, written by Norbert Elias and you.
Yeah.
Okay, could you give the main characteristic of the mimesis as it is manifested in the fields of leisure and sport?
Yeah, okay. Leisure is American English. We say leisure.
Yeah,
so,
leisures.
We English say leisure, yeah. What we argued in our book, Quest for Excitement, was that there are three forms in which a sport is an important social activity. First of all, there's just a component of physical conflict, either between individual athletes, teams of athletes, or whatever. So there's that element, the element of physical competition. Secondly, there's a sociability element. People get together and enjoy each other's company, even though this will usually involve, in a sporting context, rivalry between different groups. Okay, and the third of these functions of sport is the mimetic function, and that literally means imitation, mimesis. But actually, what's involved is rather more complex than that, because it refers to such leisure activities as going to the theatre, going to the cinema, going to a concert, or whatever. And so what's involved is not direct imitation, but, as we say, mimesis. It's a term that we got from Aristotle. So, I mean, the idea goes back as far as the ancient Greeks. It starts to be reborn in an English context with Milton, for example, in the 17th century. Okay?
Okay. Oh, thank you. And we know that you work a lot with hooliganism.
Yeah.
Could you please give some idea what is hooliganism and how it applies in different countries?
Okay. I think the first thing to note in this connection is that the term football hooliganism is not a sociological concept. It's a concept of politicians and the media in the first instance. So we look at, and trace through the ways in which media people and politicians look at this kind of issue. Sometimes they see it as worse, more serious than it actually is. Sometimes they see it as better than it actually is. If you want to know what is really at the basis of most football hooliganism, it's fighting between groups who support the rival teams. Okay, that's the basic form of football hooliganism, which has become, has become a worldwide phenomenon. There's hardly a country where the association game of football, soccer form of football, is played where there isn't hooliganism. And the only one that I know of in a European context where there's very, very little hooliganism, that's the Republic of Ireland. Soccer isn't for them a major sport. I mean, their soccer players come to England mainly to play. So, it's not all that much of a boast to the Irish that they have relatively little hooliganism. But as I said, it is, as far as we've been able to tell, worldwide. You get it in Russia, you get it throughout South America, as I'm sure people here are aware. You perhaps don't get it quite the same extent in the United States, but that's because it's only the women who play soccer there, and women tend to be more civilized than men. They fight less, fight physically less.
Thank you. Well, do you think the education can give some contribution to decrease or end the football hooliganism?
I think that as long as it's started early in life, and really it ought to involve parents socialising their children as well as school teachers socialising their pupils, and everybody should be taught. I think the old amateur ethos of sport, where the main aspect of the whole thing ought to be fair play. That, as long as it was educational, done at all levels of education, when they actually start to play football or whatever sports they play, the notion of fair play should be absolutely central and drummed into them. I think that would begin to lead it to develop in a different direction. But of course, I mean, it is a worldwide phenomenon. It's connected with such issues as the relative poverty of people in particular countries, and the levels of violence that are generated in different countries. I mean, in a European context, if you go into the east of Europe, some of the hooligan activities that take place in football are hideous.
It's amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I hope the world will change.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you have would like to say something else about what we have been talking, and also to give some ideas for the advanced study issues. This time you were invited by them, and
well, I think I'll just say that I went to see Corinthians play the other day.
Santos.
Sorry?
And Santos. Corinthians against Santos.
Against Santos, yes, sorry. Corinthians against Santos the other day. And thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, it was a pity that it was a 0-0 draw, but the level of football was great to watch.
That's good. Okay, well, thank you very much for your interview, your presence here. And I'm sure that all of us, the students, professors, researchers, Prof, with your visit, and I hope you can come back.
Thank you very much, Beatrice.
Okay.